Welcome to Between Product and Partnerships, a podcast focused on bringing together product, partnership, and engineering leaders to discuss how to build, support, and scale SaaS ecosystems. Presented by the SaaS Ecosystem Alliance and sponsored by Pandium, an integration platform and marketplace for ecosystems.
I'm Kelly Sarabin. I'm the co-founder of the SaaS Ecosystem Alliance and the director of marketing at Pandium. Today, we're going to be talking about app partners, app marketplaces, and everything in between. Ian, welcome. Can you sort of tell us about your role now and how you got into partnerships?
Sure. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having me. So my role today at Aircall is program manager for the app marketplace. So it means making sure that we have a partner program that aligns with our partners' needs, ramping up the long tail of partners as well, and making sure that we bring them to, they become the next big partners of ours. In a nutshell, that's what I do at Aircall. My journey to partnership, like we were discussing before the podcast, I'm pretty new to partnerships. Right before that, I was a senior relation manager for a network of founders and top execs. And I was also the head of a SaaS club there. So I got to interact and interview with a lot of people in the industry. For example, Blake Bartlett, the founder of a PLG term, Elias Torres from Drift. So that got me thinking and inspired. And this is also part of the reason why I went into partnerships. Before doing that, I was the head of community at an incubator. I was also an IT consultant. So I think that mix of being customer facing and technical really helps to go into partnerships. And I dive more into it. I was interested by where Aircall was at. I was super interested by how pivotal that role was. And that's why I'm here today.
Amazing. And I think that connection between partnerships and community is really important and key. And I think we see in marketing departments how this idea of like community-led growth, you see SaaS companies acquiring communities, acquiring publications. Yeah. It's sort of aligns with partnerships, and the way that businesses are buying is changing and people want it to be more relationship based. So I definitely see that connection of building communities and having that as a role, and then transitioning into sort of building ecosystems out.
Exactly.
And maybe give us a little bit more background, because I'm familiar with the Aircall team and your journey, and you guys have really grown a lot in the last few years. So just so people in the audience can understand, maybe what is your marketplace and app partner landscape look like today? How big is it? How many partners do you have?
For sure. I can talk about the tech partners mostly because those are the partners I address, not channel partners. So we have more than 100 integrations today on our app marketplace, which is great, which is a great starting point for me. The way it's grown historically, it's been at the center of Aircall from the start, especially because we're really focused on bringing value to our customers. And so understanding where they were coming from, how we could improve their experience. And because most of them, if not all of them, were using CRMs, we started there with the big names such as Salesforce, HubSpot. And we've gone a long way. We were the ones who started to build those integrations, making sure to be featured on those marketplaces. And today with HubSpot, for example, we're the #1 in telephony, and they even recently invested in us, which shows, and no credit for that at all. I arrived after that, but it really shows how much that bet has paid off, and how far we've grown. And we're now today in the other position where smaller partners, and when I say small, I don't mean necessarily in terms of the size of a company or their headcount or revenue. I just mean in terms of where they are at in terms of their partner program. So those smaller partners come to us, and they are willing to build the integrations themselves, which is a pretty great place to be in. And we can share our story with them and show them how it's helped us. And to give you another number, in North America today, more than 50% of our revenue is driven by partnerships. So
That's a
definitely, yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think, Aircall is like a lot of, growing companies in that position where, they do still have these bigger partners like Salesforce, and they're sort of the smaller partner in the relationship, but you also have all these other partners that now you're the bigger fish in the relationship. So you start to have to think about that long tail motion on how you sort of optimize that experience. But just to take another step back,
Mhm.
how does your marketplace work? Do you guys have an in-app marketplace and a public marketplace? Are those the same? It just shows install, or sort of what's your um, position on that currently? Because what I've seen in the market is a lot of earlier stage startups, they'll put up that public marketplace, but technically it's much more challenging to do an in-app marketplace, because then you have to connect to the customer's account, show them what they've already installed, allow them to actually install. So that usually comes in later stage companies. I'm wondering what you guys have now.
Mostly a public marketplace. I would say it's a cross between, but short answer would be public marketplace. Um, so it's all the features that you would expect, and Pandium is doing a great job at that. So I don't know if I can teach you a lot about this, but yeah, it's a marketplace where you can find almost all of the integrations. Of course, we have some integrations that are not referenced on our marketplace. For example, if they don't follow the requirements we have, such as having OAuth, for example, our API is still public and open. So some integrations exist with that living in the marketplace. But most of them are public anyways and available in our marketplace, if that answers a bit of a question.
So if the customer wants to, like say an existing customer wants to browse your integrations and then install, are they looking at that public marketplace and then they go elsewhere to install it, or they
Yeah.
can? Okay, that makes sense. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think, obviously at Pandium, we've thought a lot about integration marketplaces, but for those people in the audience, I think a lot of people are in the process of, building it out, and even just building out the public one. And they're trying to figure out, which features are important. And I think the interesting thing about integration marketplaces is they do look a lot alike. There, you don't
Yeah.
you don't see a lot of variation out there. There's some that are a little, looking like they were built maybe in 1990, but for the most part, they have a very, they have the tiles, they have the categories. But, since this is something like squarely in your purview, do you have thoughts on like, what the important features are, like search categories? Are
Yeah.
reviews important?
Yeah, definitely. I have thoughts about what's important, where we're at, and what could be better. And I even have an example of what another partner of ours is doing that we're not, and I think would be great. So I think what is nice, among the needs to have is, of course, some about the company statement, so that we understand the mission of a company, and also the purpose of a marketplace, a section for developers as well, to make it easier. The listing of the apps, categories, like you said, categories are super important for several reasons. You can, of course, it makes it easier for customers and potential customers to find the kind of tools they're looking for, but it's also a way, once you grow, to highlight the new apps. So not only at the beginning, on the main page, but also per category, which is also something that I think is important and brings value to new partners as well. And the nice to have, you could have some kind of chat tool, maybe, some documentation, of course. And what I really like, we didn't have that for all of our partners, but I think it's something that down the road we want for each and every one of them. Just a quick video of how to integrate with them, because there's documentation almost, I mean always, but there's not always a video, and as silly as it sounds, it makes a huge difference. And talking about what I think would be great, and we don't have, and a partner of ours has. So Alloy, to mention them, what they do in the marketplace, you can click on an integration, and then you can click on another one and see what are going to be the features between those integrations and how they're going to communicate, and how you're going to, what kind of calls you're going to be able to make. I think it's great. I think it's pretty amazing. And I was looking at it this morning. They're a new partner of ours, and I was pretty impressed by that. Um,
So you're saying it's just much more detailed in terms of like what information you're going to be able to move between your product and your partner's product?
yeah, they might not have all the documentation, for example, the same way we do, but it's very easy to understand exactly how you interact with a partner product from the main page of the integration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I think that's so important. I think customers and even just prospects really have become more sophisticated when it comes to integration. So they want to know not just that it exists, but actually what does this do? Is this going to actually help me in my job? Do you guys have any way to track are you tracking the traffic from your marketplace to your partner pages? Are you putting UTM codes or using
Yeah,
other links so they see what they're getting from you guys?
yeah, we're doing that both ways, and we're getting better at it when it wasn't the case before sometimes. And yeah, it's super important to be able to see deals that are sourced for partnerships or influenced for partnerships. So that's something that we always track internally, and that we encourage partners to track as well, so that we have concrete data that we can discuss upon when it comes to the value we're bringing each other.
Yeah, I like to beat that drum because I see a lot of marketplaces where that's not happening, and I think about the tech partnership people, and I'm like, this real value you're sending, like you're probably sending quality traffic to your partner, and some of those are converting. So surface that so your partner will be even happier. Um,
Definitely. So one way is obviously UTM links. Another way, more analog, to make sure that there's no um, times when you forget about it, is just to have your sales ask first thing on the call, how did you hear about Aircall or whatever the name of your company is. So to make sure that you know where the customer prospect is coming from.
Yeah, I agree. And if you can, and most companies are doing this anyway, if you have a system like Gong or Avoma put in place where they're recording the sales call, you
Yeah,
can put those tags of your tech partners so that you're able to see whenever they're mentioned, right? Because
exactly.
the least you need to rely on sales to log something manually, the better off and easier everybody's job is. So, I think you said one of your parts of your job is really to like enable the long tail partner, which I think is a real struggle. But in terms of sort of even getting to who's a long tail partner and who's not, most companies, at scale end up having like a partner tier system.
Hmm.
Are you guys doing that? Thoughts on whether or not that's the best way? I really haven't seen it scale another way other than these. It's usually 3 tiers. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as someone who thinks about, the long tail partners and how you can make, engage them and make their experience better. Do you think that sort of program tiers is a good approach?
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that, because I'm actually in the process of revamping those tiers. There's still going to be tiers, full disclosure, but it's interesting. I think it really depends on the stage your company's at. Sometimes it's a bit overblown. You don't necessarily need tiers. I was listening to another podcast today from a smaller company, and they don't divide their partners between tiers. They basically have two main categories: partners they interact with, partners they don't really interact with, and they're mostly reactive with. And I think at an early stage, it makes sense. Once you see traction and more partners in your marketplace, I think tiers are still important, even though, like you said, we all have tiers and we're pretty much the same sometimes. I think beyond compartmentalizing, it's hard to pronounce for someone who's French, compartmentalizing partners, the main aim of tiers is also to clearly communicate what are the benefits that you're bringing those partners, and share that clear path of what success is with those partners, and how they can level up and unlock more benefits. So the logic for me is really to pay it forward right off the bat so that they have something to start with. And so if they play ball, they will do the same. We will see some traction, and um, so that will help them move through those tiers. And it also a way for us to prioritize them, of course, and understand which partners, regardless again of their size or revenue or headcount, is the most engaged with, and which partner it makes sense to interact with the most with. So that's why I think tiers are super important. And on the other hand, and with that, hopefully with that contradicting myself, I believe that it's also important to be super flexible. So I'm building, like I said, I'm revamping our partners' benefits, but sometimes you will have partners that will come with an opportunity that doesn't fit at all your partner program, but it still make a lot of sense, and you might want to play and build up that momentum, and to be opportunistic in the business sense of the term. So it might make sense. For example, an interview for a podcast, a partner that might have a webinar, even though we're not seeing a lot of customers coming from them just yet. If it's an angle that's relevant for Aircool in a way for us to share our expertise and get a better SEO, it might be a good opportunity to jump on, whether or not it fits within your whole partner program, and tiers. Um, so yeah, I think it's a great way as well for smaller partners to get the attention of the bigger fish in the pond. So like I said at the beginning, we were the ones doing all the legwork to get the attention of bigger partners. And I love it when I see partners coming up to us with tons of ideas of what we could implement, and making it easier for us to engage with them. So in a nutshell, that's why I think tiers are important. It's not only a way to divide partners by how much revenue they bring, but it's a way to gauge and encourage them to be more engaged, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that approach. I think the transparency is so important, and at scale, you need that program so that you can, you know, communicate to the long tail partners. This is what you're going to need to do. This is the structure of the program. So transparency is great for like leveling
Yep.
expectations, right? Because the worst thing is if people come in, they invest in building an integration and they're expecting one thing and get another. But that flexibility you're talking about is so key, because there's going to be new companies that either don't fit the model or they're just up and coming companies, and maybe they have like a product feature that's just so amazing to your customers, even though they don't have a large customer base, right? So by that,
Yeah,
they might not make it up in the program. And, I think having that flexibility on top of the tiers is a great way to go. And you do see a lot of larger companies having like new and noteworthy sections, right, in their app store,
we
or
do
having
that.
like sort of app accelerators where you're smaller but you get the chance to build that personal relationship with a larger partner. And I think that's a nice way to get that flexibility where you're not missing really excellent opportunities.
Totally agree.
So, to dive in deeper to the long tail experience, I would love to hear your thoughts on, when you have strategic partners, you can do a lot of hand holding, personal touch, really have quarterly or even monthly business reviews. But once you get to a certain size, you can't provide that personal interaction to every partner. So, what are some of the ways that you've been able to provide a good partner experience for the long tail?
Sure. That's a great question, and that's one of my main challenges and objectives in my current position. So I would say pay it forward, template as much as possible, make it as easy as possible for them as well, and ask for feedback. Feedback is super important. Sometimes you have this idea of what's important to your partners, and it's not the case at all. So it's great to keep asking for feedback all the time. And also another thing is, and again, I'm pretty new to partnerships, is to exchange with peers and get other ideas of how they are doing it. And I just yesterday I was just chatting with two more experienced partner people from a big company, and it was great. And we shared a lot of what we're planning on doing and how we're expanding on that. Um, but to make it more clear, so again, like we were talking about earlier, having a clear path so that they know the hoops they have to go through before they can start on more resource intensive activities. So to give you a concrete example, we launched recently an event that's called Partner Pitch Perfect. The name might change depending on what legal is going to tell us, but we should be fine. Um, and the idea is that the partners will come and pitch their integration. They will have 10 minutes to demo their integration. There will be several partners doing that enablement session to our go-to-market team. So they get an early access to that go-to-market team that they might not in other partner program. So it's a monthly event, and every quarter we have a vote among the go-to-market team, and they decide what was the best pitch, what was the best company demo, and then with those, we do a webinar that's open to the public. So that's a way to, again, pay it forward, giving them the opportunity to exchange and address and engage with our go-to-market team, and also to give them more resource-intensive benefits depending on their engagement. So again, it's a relationship, and it should go both way, because in any relationship, I think you want reciprocity and engagement. And I think following steps allows you to gauge where each one is at and to set expectations. I have a terrible metaphor for that, but you don't want to make a proposal on a first date, and that's the way I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about all those hoops and steps for partnerships. If that makes sense again. I think also when I said ask for feedback, it's important to understand what they need or want. Do they want marketing? Maybe they just want an SEO boost. Do they want more revenue? And so it will help drive a conversation forward, and make sure that we're going in the right direction instead of trying to provide them with benefits they might not care about, and that might be more, again, resource intensive than they should be. So it will really depend on that. And we're trying to find the sweet spot that is not resource intensive, and at the same time, it will bring a lot of value to those partners. That's why feedback is super important. Again, like I said, engagement for the partner is going to be key, and it will determine a lot of relationships. So when we wanted to be big on HubSpot, like I said, we were the one that spent a lot of time talking to our customers, understanding their needs, and building the integration, and that's how we got on their radar. So my point is, it's super important to keep investing in that long tail of partners, and not only the most strategic partners, because at the end of the day, they will and might become, for some of them, the next big partners on our marketplace. So I think it's super important to be open to them and provide them with benefits and bring them value. And at the end of the day, they're going to be the one like bringing you more customers, more revenue. So yeah, I hope it answers the
Yeah,
question.
I love that idea of sort of that pitch contest, and I've seen Clio, which is like a legal CRM,
Mhm.
have a somewhat similar thing where they had sort of a competition for the best new app essentially, and then they would announce the winner at a live event, one of their conferences, and I think the winner got $100,000. But I think that your thing too, where you get in front of sales and marketing team, is really super valuable, right? Because that's what partners are trying to do. They're trying to increase adoption, get more on the radar, and that provides that sort of opportunity. And I think events in general can be a way to engage a long tail without having to put too much resources from your side. What about the sort of more tactical around how you're communicating? So, I think there's kind of a current problem in partnerships of 1,000 partner portals. That's what I like to call it. Um, Now, if you're AWS or Salesforce, your partners are going to be logging into the portal. But if you're you're in a position that's interesting, right? Because you do have all these partners coming to you, but they probably also have a bunch of other companies. So are you guys using a partner portal to manage the relationship with your long tail of partners? And is that effective? Um,
That's a great question. And I know there's a whole debate in the industry about the death of the partner portal, that rises back from its ashes again, and and whether or not it's worth investing in. Full disclosure, for tech partners, we don't use a partner portal. We do for channel partners. So the ways I communicate and at least exchange data with my partners are, first off, I use Crossbeam or Reveal to exchange opportunities. I think that's key, and that's something that should be part of a conversation even before the integration is built. I know a lot of people don't necessarily do that. They wait for the integration to be built, and then they will try and see what are the overlaps. I think it saves a lot of time to start with that. That's the first thing. Then when it comes to our channel of communication, so to speak, because we don't have a partner portal for tech partners, honestly, I'm pretty flexible, and it really depends on the way partners, I mean, what kind of channel they favor. So I love Slack Connect, for example. I think it's very easy. You can add your A's, your CSN super quickly whenever there's an app to the channel. So whenever I can, I implement that. Some partners are a bit reluctant to use Slack Connect. So we do emails. It's fine with me as well. And actually it helps me make sure that we don't over communicate, which is also might be the problem with Slack Connect, because you're always available. You always can see that little green dot, which is very tempting sometimes. And yeah, there's that whole partner portal debate. To be honest, I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to that. What matters to me is results. So I'm all for trying again. I started my position pretty recently, so I'm trying the way I discussed. If I see other ways to improve on that, I definitely will. I think at the end of the day, more than the channels of communication, was what matters is really what you said before, which is transparency, being able to clearly articulate what is possible on each side in terms of bandwidth, resources, and what's actually possible. And here, if I may, I would love to quote Jared Fuller. And I think he has a great point when he said that trust is the new data. Like data used to be the new oil. And I think that's also why partnerships is so interesting and so different from, I don't want to say old school sales, but let's say traditional sales, because even with a long tail of partners, it's still super important to have that human-to-human connection whenever possible. We still have the luxury to have only a bit more than 100 partners, so it's still possible to do that, if not as much as we would do if we had less. But yeah, so, and also another way to communicate, and that's how we met, I believe, it's in-person events, and I think they're great. And like you said, they might not be as resource intensive just because you can have like so many partners at the same event, and it's a great way to connect with all of them. I think it makes a big difference. It helps build those relationships, see them evolve, and even over a short period of time, it really eases the business side of things. I've been to several events in 1 or 2 months, and I've seen some of the same people, and we started building rapport and trust, and I think that goes a long way. So I think, being in a nutshell, the best way to communicate with partners, regardless of whether it's for a portal or something, is to be transparent, and to remember that it's not a zero-sum game, and that's the beauty of partnership. It's actually a virtuous circle where 1 + 1 is equal to 3. So yeah, a channel is just a means.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, because I think maybe with about 100 partners, maybe you guys are on like a threshold where
We are.
the more manual processes just become not sustainable. Now you can always scale your internal workforce, right? Like you can always just add more partner managers, in which case you can maintain at least some personal touch points. But even around the data, I think on the data collection side, once you reach a certain point, you probably need at least either robust internal integrations where you're piping things into a sort of tracking dashboard where you're seeing all the
Mhm.
results of these partnerships, which I think can be an advantage of a sophisticated partner portal where both you and your partner can see. And I've seen this in some of the PRMs on the market, Pronto, Workspan. There's a number out there now, but they sort of surface those results to the part both to you and to your partners, which obviously can be really valuable and motivating, right? Because you see that you're actually making an impact, and that helps. But I think the nice thing, as you're saying, about the more manual approach is that you do have more opportunities for that personal connection, which ultimately, to have trust, I think you need that. I'll be curious how it all unfolds, because I don't think it's very challenging, but to have true trust at scale, I think.
Ye- Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's something marketing struggles with too, right? Like, you want to create a brand that's trustworthy, and once you're at that point of scale with your ecosystem and your partnerships, it's an interesting question, right? Like, how are you establishing trust at that level of scale where you're not having the personal relationship?
100%, and I totally agree. And let's touch base in 6 months, and I might tell you something totally different. But I'm all for automation as well whenever it's possible. Like I said, I love to template and automate as many things as possible. To give you a very concrete example, whenever I have a new partner, I will share with them some self-serve marketing tools so that they can showcase a partnership on social media, which to a lot of partners is super valuable, because what they're looking for is really to attach their name to our brand, which is the same thing we're looking for at the beginning. So just doing that, which doesn't, it takes almost none of my time, because it's a template, it's reusable, and whenever possible, I will try and automate and template those things. But I still believe that human touch is super important. But I agree with you that it's a tough balance to maintain, or thin line to walk on. And it's going to be more and more difficult because we're going to keep growing. And when we reach 1,000 partners, for example, it's going to be a totally different ball game for sure.
Those tech partnerships people, we really have to think not just about our partners from a go to market side, but also our partner developers. What does that look like for you guys? Do you guys have a separate developer relations team? Is it embedded within the tech partnerships? How do you guys work with your organization to make sure that the partner developers are having a good experience and they're walking away saying, I really liked building that integration, I liked working with that team?
Yeah, several things, and great question again. I think the first thing that is key is having a clear API documentation, so that even before they start talking with us, they know what they're looking at and how it works. At least the main functionalities and what to expect. So we put a lot of emphasis on tutorials about the different those different functions. So for example, we have tutorials about how to get started with Aircall OAuth, what is basic authentication, how to create a webhook, all those things we have tutorial for. And also for features that are more specific to Aircall, such as automatic callback, routing calls, storing calls on dedicated servers, all those things. Again, I think it's the same thing with developers and with partners. Where we bring value is when we make things as easy as possible for them. So I think documentation is key and is really a first step, and we'll keep improving on that. It's never perfect, and there's always a V1, a V2, a V3 of the app, so you have to keep your documentation up to date. In addition to that, of course, we have technical support to help them build the integration. And again, like we talked about at the very beginning, make sure that they follow our technical requirements so that they can be featured on a marketplace. Otherwise, we're not. So it's a mix of good documentation and spending time with them to make sure that everything's working, testing their integration as well to make sure that we're releasing something that's going to bring value to the customer and not just an additional number in a marketplace because that's not what we're looking for here.
And what do you do internally to stay aligned with product and engineering from the perspective of being on the tech partner team? How do you guys stay aligned with product and engineering to make sure there's those open lines of communication, but also that you guys get the support when you need the support, whether it's because, you're hearing from your partners, they want this new resource on the API, they really need
Yeah,
it would be really helpful. Yeah, what's your lines of communication there?
sure. Several levels to that. First thing is we have a weekly enablement session with engineering so that we know exactly what they're working on, what they're improving. We also have different Slack channels so that we can let them know about the issues a partner might be encountering. Also, it's pretty organic just because I'm in the New York office and they, a lot of them are as well, and we know each other by name, of course, and we see each other every day. So it's pretty organic and pretty easy for us. Even without all those channels of communication, which are again mostly Slack and those weekly meetings that we have with them.
Amazing. So we're coming up on time, but I think, I'd love to get your advice to someone who is thinking about moving into tech partnerships specifically, since you're relatively new. How would you advise they think about that decision, frame it? Do you have advice for maybe personality traits that it might be a good fit? Like, what should people's interests be if they're going to move into this role and have it be a really good fit for them?
Sure. It's a bit humbling to give advice when you're so new, but I will try to answer to the best of my abilities. No, more seriously, I believe being a people lover is number one. You have to generally like people, I believe. Otherwise, you're not gonna like that job. And if you don't like your job, your performance is gonna be affected by it, and you're not gonna stay long in that position. Number two, I think is, and it's cliche, but I really believe it. It's really being curious about tech in general, about SaaS, about where it's going, what are the new trends, what is fluff, and what is actually making a difference, and yeah, and bringing that to your day to day and sharing new ideas, being creative as well, because you're going to work in tension with a lot of different interests. So there's your partner's interest, there's your interest in your position, there's internally the interest of the other teams because you work with every single team. So which I think is, which is why I think it's one of the best, if not the best role, just because you get to really understand how an organization works, because you have to interact with each and everyone, be they sales, marketing, all of them, product, engineering. So I think it's great having that high level perspective and at the same time not being afraid of sometimes deep diving. So I think it's not a requirement, but I believe it's definitely a plus to have some technical chops. So I'm advocating for myself here, but I do believe it makes a difference, just so that you understand how an API works. Maybe you've played with some before, and so whenever something happens, you have an idea and you can actually jump in whether or not someone from engineering is actually available right at that moment. So yeah, top of my head, that would be it.
Oh, I love it. It's great advice. And, I've never really thought about that before in terms of being a great place if you're in tech or interested in being in tech as a way to get exposure to the whole organization. It really is. And you have to want to do that, but it's a great way to understand the different components of the business and how they work together.
Exactly, I really believe so.
So thank you so much for joining us today. Is there a place that people can reach you? LinkedIn, Twitter?
Sure. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn. There's also that thing, and that might be a shameless plug, so stop me and we'll cut this out if it is. We're still hiring in partnerships a lot, so feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can also reach out to me on my phone number. Again, Aircall, we do voice, so you can send me a text at 929-209-3313. 929-209-3313. I don't know if that works. I would love it. We'll see. And otherwise, LinkedIn is great.
You do like people throwing your number out there.
Oh, it's my Aircall number. Don't worry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I really appreciate it. Have a great.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. If you're someone who is working on building and scaling SaaS product partnerships, we invite you to apply to be a member of our community at saasecosystemalliance.com.